This is Ed McCarthy, CEO of Echelon Performance. Welcome back to Coaching Sidebar. My guest is Alex Davids. Alex is the co-founder and director for Next Evolution Performance. You can find them on the web at nextevolutionperformance.com. And you are making us a global entity now, Alex. Alex and her team are based out of Oceania. They are in New Zealand and Australia, but you are not there right now. Where are you?
No, I am in Toulouse, France.
That is really nice. Given the choice between Asbury Park, New Jersey, and Toulouse, France, I might take Toulouse, France.
It's a tough one. Asbury's a pretty cool place.
It is a cool place. It is, but it's not Toulouse, France. So I want to dive in. If you watched the first two interviews that I did with Alex, we've talked about some really powerful things with regard to not just the intersection of mental fitness and physical fitness, but also around the mental approach to some very common things like certainty and change and the power of choice as a manager and as an employee. And number one, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. I want to get to something, another piece that you wrote that's available on the website, again, nextevolutionperformance.com. And it was around this idea of keeping calm under pressure. Mm. And we work with a lot of commercial teams. We work with brand leadership, marketers, sales, and so forth. And just like change, pressure is an almost constant companion in those roles. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about wasn't so much how do I know I'm under pressure. I think we all get a sense as to what to do under pressure. But I think from a manager's perspective, how do I manage a healthy pressure with people? Individually, how do I live comfortably with some degree of pressure? But then also, as part of the article, you had some actual physical practices that you can do when you're feeling that pressure. How do you become more self-aware and respond to the physical feelings of pressure? So go back to the top of that question. Tell us a little bit about pressure and how managers can be aware of the level of pressure that their people might be feeling.
Yeah, come under pressure is a concept that I did cheekily steal the idea from a person we work with a lot, but who does it from a very physical perspective. And I just think it sums up so well what we really are supporting people with, is that the world is full of pressure and business is full of pressure and life is full of pressure. And understanding how we respond to it is what allows us to be either high performing or not. And it allows us to either have what we call resilience, which lots of people are talking about now, or to effectively collapse underneath the pressure. So the first element, of course, is to just recognize it. So as we probably touched on in our previous interviews, Ed, it's really important that we have enough self-awareness to know when the pressure is hitting. And many people think, oh, well, I'm just not good when they hit the fan and when I'm under this effective, I guess we could call it stress, but different types of pressure. And actually, what I try to remind people is that learning to become under pressure is a practice. It's not something you're just born with. I mean, yes, people may be maybe a little bit more naturally able to cope for whatever reason, their upbringing or whatever it might be, but that it is a practice and that you can actually teach yourself how to remain calm when things get intense. And the best way I can describe that is, as stress, pressure, and overwhelm are rising, we have options. One is we can just completely cave underneath that pressure, or we can recognize that when we're under pressure, what happens to our brain, and so this is going into the neuroscience side of it, is that our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain right up here that does all of the logical thinking, the decision making, etc., actually stops working. And it does that for a good reason. When I heard this the very first time many years ago, I remember thinking, well, that seems ridiculous. When you're under pressure, you need to be able to think logically and clearly. But what happens is, because our brains have not evolved enough since back in caveman days, our brain responds exactly the same way it would do to a physical threat. Just like many of us understand now, the fight or flight response. So our brain stops working in that logical way so that we can just move. We can either stay and fight or we can get out of the way. And unfortunately, the pressures that we have today in our modern world are very different to that. But our brain responds in the exact same way. So our prefrontal cortex stops working. It's why they say, never have an argument with your other half in the evening when you're tired, quite literally because you are not having a logical discussion. So, you ever wake up in the morning and you think, God, what were we even arguing about? It's because it was irrational and you did not have logical thinking, and neither did that. And it is just the best advice. Just don't argue when you're tired. If you've got something you want to have a discussion with someone about, wait till everybody's feeling a little bit more fresh, because it will not go well. So same thing here in the workplace, that if you want to get your prefrontal cortex switched back on, there are some really simple things you can do. And the number one easiest tool that we have at our disposal is learning how to use our breath. So when people say, oh, calm down, just take a deep breath, doesn't actually help a huge amount to just take a big deep breath, but to learn how to bring proper breathing back in, where you can breathe deep down into your abdomen and spread your ribs from front to back, side to side, and do that repeatedly 7 to 10 times, then you have literally calmed your nervous system down and brought your prefrontal cortex back online.
That's amazing.
Effectively, you're telling your body you're safe.
That's amazing. It really is. And the fact that you said it, now you're giving examples of it, but this idea that you can train yourself. Did you say train yourself to be under pressure?
So the training yourself part is, look, there's lots of different things out there now. There's all this different hot, cold training that people do, putting themselves into ice baths and then into hot saunas and then doing that over and over again. But breath work and meditation, these are all different ways of training yourself to, when your body goes into a state of pressure and stress, bringing that nervous system back down. And the more that you train it, and you can do it physically or you can do it mentally. So when you're under mental pressure, just grabbing yourself in that moment and teaching yourself these breath exercises, or physically when your body is under stress because you go into a freezing cold ice situation and teaching yourself breath there. Either one is training your nervous system that it can be calm when everything is going against it.
Yeah. That's an absolutely fascinating thought. And I want to get back more into the what to do when, but I'm putting myself in the place of, again, we work a lot with managers, and sometimes managers have to give tough feedback. They have to do tough reviews. They have to have tough conversations. And that's stressful, right? That's something that's going to raise your heart rate, make you feel under pressure. And I think having a thought pattern or an awareness and then a thought pattern as to what to do to manage that is really powerful. Same with salespeople, right? There are some organizations, some sales calls that are just more important than others, right? And if you are feeling under pressure and you can feel yourself getting all wound up before a big presentation, this is, simple, practical solutions that really address the issue, right? Not just take a deep breath, but to your point, those 7 to 10 really deep into the abdomen type of breaths. That's something that everybody can do no matter where. What are some of the other things that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, look, that's probably the easiest and most accessible. But the I always think the solutions sound so simple because they are, but it is the practice of doing them. So things like this idea of a gratitude practice, people might, laugh it off, or it's not really a tool for executives or for companies or for leaders or managers. But all gratitude does when you are, and this is that Eastern and Western stuff coming together again, all it's really doing is allowing you to bring positivity to the front of your mind. So a positive way of viewing the world. And if you do that on a regular basis, then you literally create new wiring in your brain that is more positive. And then when you're in a challenging situation, you're far more likely to see the positive or the possibility in the situation than you are the challenge or the inability to move forward. So things like a gratitude practice don't just make you a happier person, but they continuously rewire your brain to think positively. So an example in a business situation might be, if you hate recruitment and you just absolutely hate the process of bringing new people on board and going through all of that. And every time that something to do with recruitment comes up, stop for just a minute and think of 3 things that recruitment does for you in a positive space. So, okay, it's going to allow the team to work better. That'll free up more time for me and might bring some new energy into the organization. And if you do that every single time, there's this concept in neuroscience called when neurons fire together, they wire together. So if you are firing the recruitment neuron with some positive energy neurons, they literally start to become one. And over time, you will start to think of the recruitment stuff and you'll just naturally feel positive about it.
It's to your point, it sounds so easy. But you're saying it is that easy. Wow.
Yeah, it's a practice. So anything that you want to make more positive in your life that you're finding challenging, be it an in-law or an animal or an approach to things, you can do it. You just have to commit to it.
All right, I'm going to make a note on that one. That sounds fantastic. No, thank you so much. Again, your team, even your website is a source of powerful and practical ideas and solutions just like this. So I'm going to thank you one more time, Alex Davids, co-founder, director of Next Evolution Performance. Your work is brilliant. Your insights are so practical. And thanks again for stopping by.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's just a real joy.
Enjoy France.
Thank you.
All right.